Don. You're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi, Ken. How are you?
I'm living the dream. What are you doing?
Well, I was calling to see if I could get some career guidance from you. I've been a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, thank you.
And, well, yeah, no problem. I really value, your advice, and you're someone who I greatly respect. So I was just curious what you would say about the situation that I'm in.
All right, hit me with it.
So I'm an emergency room physician, and right now things are very tough at the hospital where I work.
Yeah.
I thought once COVID-19 started to settle down that things would kind of go back to normal. But unfortunately, we're now running into the problem of severe staffing shortages. We're short on nurses, ER techs, physician assistants, and ultimately it's just leading to all of us feeling overwhelmed and burned out. And we're all being stretched very thin. And it's to the point that I think we're all a little bit worried about a patient being harmed as a result of just not having the staff there.
Yeah. Can I ask you a very quick question? And I want to make this about you. So just give me your best 20-second answer. I don't want to get lost in this. Why is this happening? I hear this reported, but you're a physician in an ER. Why are we having a hard time getting nurses and techs? Why? What's causing this? They just said it's too much for us and we're out and there's not enough people to replace them?
So I think it started during the COVID-19 pandemic. The situation was really challenging during that time because things were happening like we were on the cusp of running out of ventilators. We had patients who were lining up in the hallways.
Right.
We didn't have enough beds upstairs to admit patients to because they were all full.
Right.
And so I think everyone was just overwhelmed during that time. And we all kind of thought, like, once we get through COVID, it'll get better. And at that point, so many people had already left that it was just like a domino effect because as we became more and more short-staffed, more people continued to leave.
So there's not enough people to replace the ones that said, I'm out. That's the problem.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, keep going. So you're in a situation now where you are concerned about the health of your patients, and I'm equally concerned. It scares me to death because when you're exhausted, when you are stressed, you're not at your best at giving medical care. It's not your fault. So,
correct. It's not uncommon for us to work 12-hour shifts and not even have a break to eat lunch or.
So what's your question for me?
So my question is, I could stay at this job, which pays very well because my employer recognizes the situation that we're working in, and so as a result, they're compensating us very well. They're one of the highest paying hospitals in the area. I could stay there, although I'm worried about, my patients, and I feel like we're not providing the level of care that they deserve because of the staffing, or I could go to a lower paying job that is a better work environment, but it's probably going to be about $100 an hour pay cut.
Wow.
So I'm grappling with what to do.
Okay. If you walked in today and said, I can't do this anymore, and I am not going to be the cause of medical malpractice and a massive lawsuit, I just can't live with this. I'm sorry, I'm out. How bad off would they be, and to what level would they be trying to convince you to stay?
I don't know from the physician standpoint, but I will say that some of the nurses have gone in and had that conversation with their supervisor, and they've said, I'm concerned about my nursing license because I'm being asked to take care of 10 patients at a time.
Right.
And
my point is they'd freak out. They'd freak out. You know it and I know it, wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm.
The hospital administrator, yes or no?
Yeah, I think they're doing their best to try to retain the staff that they have.
You
right
really
now.
do. You really believe they're doing everything they can.
Yes.
They just don't have anybody they can pull from.
Correct.
So the alternative to fix this is what? I mean, truly, what is the real fix? Before I give you my thoughts, because it really is based on this. There is no fix. They can't, or they turn patients away. The only fix is that you just don't see as many patients. You just go, sorry, we can't take you. Is that right?
Yeah. So typically what's considered safe for an ER provider to see patients per hour is about 2 patients maximum. And recently I've been doing around 3 for a 12-hour shift.
Okay. So are they able to say, sorry, we can't take you. You're going to have to go to another ER?
So what happens is that it just turns into a long wait time. So they can't actually turn anyone away due to what's called the EMTALA laws.
Right.
But the patients will just be in the waiting room for 6 to 8 hours waiting to be seen. And it's just because we don't have the staff and often the beds to bring them back to a room to see them.
There really is no solution to this problem other than staff, if I understood you correctly, because while what's healthy is 2 patients an hour in an ER setting, you're having to deal with 3, but you can't turn them away. All they do is they sit there, and it means you've got longer hours. By this time, you're completely fried, and that's where the risk for you, the medical caregiver, is coming to fruition, not being able to take care of somebody because you're not at your best. And have I understood that? So I've got that summed up well?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And then also, from the nursing standpoint, I may order a medication. It may be an hour until somebody gets their antibiotic or their pain medication, just because we have 2 nurses that are trying to care for, sometimes 10 patients. So I feel like it really impacts patient care.
And so there are not enough nurses in the pipeline that are getting educated and raising their hand and coming into the system. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. Or they come out, and we've seen a lot of new nurses who have left within the first year because they just say it's too overwhelming, and they decide that they don't want to do it anymore.
All right. And the reason I'm diving into this so much is because I've never had the opportunity, as I said, to coach someone in your role. So this is a systemic problem, but it doesn't seem like there's 2 or 3 quick fixes from a hospital administrator standpoint, other than getting the labor in there, people in there. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so now that allows me to then shift to you. You can't stay in this ER environment much longer. At some point, it really begins to have massive effects on you, if it's not already, and it also sets you up for malpractice or getting sued or all kinds of problems. Am I right?
Yes, I've already noticed how much more anxiety I have. I mean, it'll start days before my stretch starts. I'll just have overwhelming, anxiety and worry.
Yeah. So, but you're also dealing with, I'm guessing here, I don't want to project this, crushing guilt when you think about walking out of this situation, and it's who's going to replace you.
Yeah, I know one of the things that they're looking at is hiring new grads out of residency, but that even worries me more because you're taking someone with no experience who's brand new and putting them into this environment. I feel like we're kind of set up to fail unless it's a near impossible situation.
Okay. So it's not tenable even then if you had a couple of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed residents and you were teaching them as you go, knowing that it would be painful and the same amount of work, even more so because you're having to instruct and guide, but for a season, then it could get better. You don't believe that's a possible solution?
So the hospital where I work, we don't have residents rotating through, so they would actually, it's a single coverage here, so there's only one physician there.
Yeah.
So it would just be a single resident and no one else. They would graduate, so they would be a brand new attending, and it would just be them and no one else responsible for all the patients and for leading the team.
Oh my gosh! All right, Don. So I'm guessing you started off saying you respect me, listen to me, you want my opinion on what you should do. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to treat this as if, if this were my wife, Stacy, calling, and dealing with this, because I'm not you, so I can't put myself fully in your shoes. But I'm trying to think, what would my advice be for my wife? And my advice would be, you can't keep doing this, and you can't feel guilty about this. And if we take a pay cut, it would be temporary, I think, because I think you would reset, get healthy, and find other ways to supplement your income, or put yourself in a different environment down the line. But you cannot continue to do this. It's not worth it. It's not your problem. And it sucks, and it's really scary when we talk about medical care. But I would tell you that you got to walk. I wouldn't necessarily, and I'm not saying you've done this, is your only option the one you presented to me where you're taking $100 an hour cut, or are there other options?
So my option would be, one, I could go and do a telemedicine position, which pays roughly around $150 an hour, depending on which place you work for. I could also go do something like addiction medicine and be medical director for an addiction clinic, or I could just find a different emergency department to work in. And the ones that I've looked at are right around, $175, $185 an hour, just because they're better staffed and they have easier time.
And what are those still a huge cut for you?
Yeah, I'm at $250 an hour right now.
Okay, so everything that you've looked at is still a sizable cut.
Yes,
all right.
Unless I go to another ER that's also dealing with the understaffing.
No. Yeah, it's not an option. We don't leave chaos to go to another chaotic environment. So the question becomes, it sucks just on paper, But the question is, are you in any kind of financial issues? Are you struggling with debt? Do you have a lot going on there? Or do you have financial freedom where while it's a cut, the improvement in your life, it doesn't matter?
So at this point, we do have a paid off home, and
Great.
we do have some debt. I just got married recently, so we are paying off some remaining student loan
How much?
debt. It's $71,000, but we actually have $55,000 saved right now, so we should be debt free by like the end of July.
Okay, so I would wait until I paid off the debt. If you can, if you can stay with it, and I'll give you some advice there. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have some boundaries.
Okay.
And I don't know what's available to you, but I'm going to speak as a potential patient.
Okay.
If I'm sitting in the ER and I need real care, and it's and I want a doctor who's at their best, I'd rather wait an hour for you to take a 20-minute nap. I don't know what that looks like. But if you're overwhelmed anyway, and people are waiting, excuse me, folks, I'm sorry, Don, I'm trying not to cough in the mic. All of a sudden, it's like I have a gremlin in my throat who's trying so hard to get me to just choke. But anyway, I guess my point is, what boundaries can you set in place? And if the patient's got to wait a little bit longer, but it allows you to get a 10-minute break or a 20-minute break. I don't know if that's even silly as the way it sounds, but you're going to have to just, whatever it takes to create some boundaries to get through until you get the debt paid off and we change our lifestyle, or maybe get a full emergency fund plus the debt, and then we walk away. I think that's what I would do if I were you.
Okay. Yeah, we do have a fully funded emergency fund at this point. So we just have the debt to pay off. And like I said, we have about $55,000.
Well, you got 55 of it. I don't know why you're waiting on it. I'd go ahead and pay the 55.
Okay.
And just watch how your budget changes. That's a lot. And and then for a couple of months while we're waiting to pay off the rest of the money, I'd start working a budget. This is what life's going to look like after I'm making $100 less an hour. So that's a great ramp. And I love that. And so it's not going to be a huge shock to your system. And you've got to do this. You got to take care of yourself. You got to do it. You got to do it. Good heavens, folks. I appreciate your patience with me here. I have no idea what's going on in my throat. But here's the takeaway. For anybody else that's in a situation like Dawn, when you are in such a vital role, we're talking about people coming in ER emergency situations. One of the biggest challenges is when it's an unhealthy environment, but you feel that there's so much responsibility and weight on you. And if you walk away, you're dealing with some real guilt. That is real. That means you're a good person, but you've got to separate that. And you've got to say, look, I'm no good to anybody if I flame out. I can't give what I don't have. So that's the takeaway.